Coming up this week on the Racing Insiders, we look inside the TUDOR United Sportscar Championship. We get all the latest from John Dagys, Sportscar 365, the best analysis out there. We look at Super GT in Twin Ring Motegi. And we get Jim Liaw, co-founder of Formula Drift, about their expansion plans globally. This week on the Racing Insiders. Next. Welcome back to the Racing Insiders, the only place in broadcasting where you're going to get sports car content every week. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles. We're joined by Greg Kramer in Atlanta, Georgia, and Jeff Lepper in Folsom, California. Greg, it's good to see you again.
Hey, it's always great to be back and be a part of the Racing Insiders TV show. Having a lot of fun this weekend. Been hanging out at the American Road Race of Champions, one of the top club races in the Sports Car Club of America. Beautiful weekend here in Atlanta, and just having a great time. Great to be part of it.
Well, welcome back. We want to get right to the show right now. We've got a lot of meat with John Dagys, Sportscar 365. He's got a lot of inside information. It's going to bring us up to speed on the biggest headline in sports car racing, getting ready for the new TUDOR United Sportscar Championship and testing that's going to start in the next couple weeks at Daytona and Sebring. Jonathan, it's good to have you here in the Racing Insiders.
Well, thanks for having me on, Phil.
Tell us what's going on. There's a lot that's happening. I read a couple of pieces on your website this week about the GT cars, the teams that have been confirmed, and the prototype, though, is the big category. Who's in and who's out in Daytona prototypes and the P2 category. Give us an update.
Yeah, that's the big question on everybody's mind right now, especially with the regulations slowly being defined. You know, over the last few weeks, IMSA's released some bulletins to teams basically outlining what has to be done to the Daytona prototypes and the P2 cars. Everything's still tentative, so everything's really not set in stone, but it looks like, you know, there's going to be a few less DPs than we expected due to some increased costs on to upgrade the Daytona prototypes. You know, obviously there's a lot of talk about carbon brakes and more aero updates, including a diffuser, rear wing, as well as some other components on the car, and big horsepower increase as well. And that sort of put a couple of the Daytona prototype teams on the sidelines right now looking in. You got Starworks Motorsport, 8-Star Motorsports. They're sort of not 100% confirmed for DPs yet. There's a good chunk of Daytona prototype teams that are on board. You know, obviously you have Chip Ganassi Racing. They're set to make an announcement shortly about their program. We have Wayne Taylor Racing coming back with one Corvette DP for brothers Jordan and Ricky Taylor, so that's a huge storyline there. And obviously you have a couple other prototypes as well, like Extreme Speed Motorsports with the HPD cars. They just recently announced Ryan DL that'll partner Scott Sharp in the lead, the 01 car. So there's a lot going on right now in the prototype class. It's just a case of figuring out who's exactly on the grid and how many entries there will be available. You know, right now I think they're capping off the field at 19 cars, and you know, initially it looked like that might have been an issue, but maybe not so much now. There seems to be a lot of stuff still up in the air.
Well, John, that's interesting, and of course some of those late evolutions of the rules have really got people a little bit concerned about which way to go. You know, we've got Dyson, we've got Pickett that have always been playing in the P1 category. Dyson's indicated they're going to be there with a P2. Pickett, though, is a lot more of a question mark. Klaus Groff told me at Petit, yes, we will be here in the new series, but he didn't indicate where. You hearing anything about where the Pickett organization might be going?
Well, yeah, I spoke with Greg Pickett at Petit Le Mans about that, and he basically wouldn't confirm to me 100% what they were doing, but he did say they were looking for an expansion of the program. So I basically said, well, does that mean prototype and GT? And he pretty much said, well, that would be safe to assume. So are we looking at a P2 program, a PC, a Daytona prototype? You know, historically, Greg has said he never would race a Daytona prototype again. So my guess would be a P2 and then some kind of a GT. You know, he was talking to 3 different GT3 manufacturers about homologating the GT3 car into GT Le Mans, basically making it ACO compliant in America and promising not to race that overseas at the 24-hour. So we don't know really what the stage is of that talk and negotiation, but I think he's close to doing a deal for a GT car. Whatever manufacturer it is, it sort of remains unclear.
Wow, that GT, especially the GT Le Mans category, is going to be just awesome racing. All the prototype hemming and hawing is going to take away from the real racing center of what's going on in that GT category, don't you think?
Yeah, GT Le Mans is going to be spectacular, just like we've seen in the ALMS this year. Then you add in 2 factory cars from Porsche. Obviously, Core Autosport's going to be jumping in and running the operational support for that program. You're going to have those cars are going to be fully equipped with factory drivers, and so you're going to have Porsche go up against Corvette versus SRT versus BMW. Then most likely a Ferrari or 2, possibility of the Pickett car, whatever that materializes. Then I think Falcon will be obviously back as well. So there's a lot going on in that class. And the good news about GT Le Mans is that it remains relatively unchanged. So we won't really see many adjustments there. Also open tire specifications. So you're still going to see Michelin and Dunlop and maybe some other brands like Falcon, jump in there as well. So it won't be a spec tire class as well.
Wow, a huge amount of meat from John Dagys, Sportscar 365. We'll get a little more, especially with the testing that's coming up at Daytona and Sebring right after this. This is the Racing Insiders. We'll be right back.
Let us know what you think about what the Racing Insiders have to say. Tell us on Facebook and Twitter. Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new GoRacingTV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back to the Racing Insiders. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles. Greg Kramer is in Atlanta. Jeff Lepper is in Folsom, California. And John Dagys is in Chicago. We continue our conversation now with John. I hear that the entries for the Daytona 24-hour were expected last week, and the testing is coming up. The teams won't know if they've been accepted into the race until after 2 tests. A lot of money, a lot of time. And there's a lot of concern about that. What have you heard?
That's definitely a question right now on everybody's mind, what the entry list is going to look like for next year. The entries obviously opened up on November 1st. They close at the end of the month, and then we'll get a better idea of who's in and who's out. IMSA basically outlined saying that full season entries will take priority. After that, they'll probably accept the North American Endurance Championship teams committed for those 4 rounds, and then after that, they'll have space for partial season efforts or one-offs. And it looks like, given the subscription and then the level of interest, there's going to be very, very little room for anybody other than a full season entrant. So as you pointed out, theoretically a team could show up, test at Daytona, and not be given an entry.
Who have you heard that might be definitive for the tests and for the race?
Well, in terms of, there's a few GT cars that'll be probably showing up that have yet to be announced. They'll be coming to light in the next few weeks. There's also a fairly significant prototype program that'll be unveiled shortly. So I think there's a good chance we'll see maybe both of them at the test. And the initial entry list for the test came out. I think there was 3 cars for Sebring and I think 6 for Daytona. That's definitely going to increase. I think we'll see it closer to 20 cars maybe for both. Probably more at Daytona, because you'll have some of the P2 teams like Extreme Speed and some of the PC teams wanting to get their first laps on the Daytona track. So these tests are going to prove pretty crucial, but I think the biggest beneficiary of these tests are going to be to balance the performance levels of the different cars, especially considering you're merging the ALMS cars together with Grand Am, and there's some new cars in GT Daytona, etc. So hopefully there's some more information gleaned from all the testing, and IMSA could get closer to finalizing the technical regulations for all 4 classes.
Well, John, obviously with the rules not completely finalized, these tests, as you point out, crucial to getting data to get the final rule set established. but it's not unheard of in testing for teams not to actually show their hand, hoping to get a favorable set of rules that kind of tilts in their direction a little bit. Do you anticipate seeing any of this happening?
Absolutely, and that's gone on over the years at the Roar Before the 24, the annual Rolex 24 official preseason test in January. I've spoken to some team owners before in the past who've said they don't even want to show up for the Roar because they never show their full strength because they're scared that, you know, they might be hit with a balance of performance adjustment right before the race, or they don't want to show their all their cards.
You know, it's huge to have this kind of, he's there trackside. He's not somebody that's reading releases. He's there trackside, a true insider. Thanks, John. Coming up next, we've got Jeff Lepper in Folsom, California. We'll talk about Super GT right after this, when the Racing Insiders return.
This segment of the Racing Insiders was brought to you by GoRacingTV.com, for racers by racers.
Welcome back to the Racing Insiders. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles. We're joined now by Jeff Lepper in Folsom, California. First of all, Jeff, welcome. It's good to hear from you again. And the Super GT, bring us up to date on that.
Well, round number 8 of the 2013 Autobox Super GT Series took place at Twin Ring Motegi this past weekend. And I'll tell you what, championships were decided in that highly contested factory series. You got factories from Nissan, Toyota, Honda, all competing, not with their street cars, but we have, you know, usually concept vehicles, with the NSX making its debut at this race. That's only a concept car. We haven't even seen that yet. But getting the championship win was the Team Zeet. Yuji Takakara got his 3rd championship win with his co-driver Kohiri Hate, his first win. It was the first for the Zeet team since 2005, getting their championship in the GT 500 class. Going on to the smaller 300 horsepower cars, the GT 300 class, that was Hideki Muto. You remember him from IRL days running an IndyCar. He was able to clinch the championship in a Mugen CRZ, the first hybrid-powered car to win a championship, I think, basically worldwide in that series, which was great, too, with his co-driver, Yukiki Nakayama. A great time in sports car racing for Super GT. We heard rumors a long time ago, Bill, when they came over here for GT Live about getting those cars over here to race in the United States. Any more word on that?
No, there was an effort made to bring them back, but the cost was just too much. They were talking about $5–6 million just to bring the cars to the West Coast, and to bring them to the East Coast, they were talking about maybe more than that. It was just too expensive. Although that event, the GT Live at California Speedway, now called Auto Club Speedway, is the largest non-NASCAR crowd that's ever been there. Larger than IndyCar, larger than anything else. There's a lot of people who are interested in Super GT, or the Japanese GT Championship, it was called then. A lot of people who are interested in that. It's kind of an underground thing, but there's just not a lot of money that people are willing to put up ahead of time to bring the cars here with that kind of overhead, $5–6 million overhead. That's a lot of money to get into an American racetrack.
What are your thoughts about this hybrid car winning the championship, this little Honda CRZ?
It's an enormous thing, and something that Americans are going to have to come to grips with. They're doing it in Japan. They're testing it in Germany. Porsche had a hybrid car at Zhuhai a couple of years ago, won by like an hour or something like that. Patrick Long was behind that in the testing and development. Americans need to get behind this, and it's very interesting that Nissan in the Ziad car, this all-electric car that's going to be at Le Mans, that technology, as they bring that online, is going to get into the road cars, and it's going to be important that we understand how the technology. Everybody else is doing it but us. Right after this, we go to Jim Liaw, co-founder of Formula Drift. Announcements made this week at SEMA indicate Formula Drift is expanding globally and here in the United States. We get those details when the Racing Insiders returns after this.
This segment of the Racing Insiders was brought to you by GoRacingTV.com, for racers by racers.
Welcome back to the Racing Insiders. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles. We're going to talk to Jim Liaw, co-founder of Formula Drift. He's here in Southern California with me. 10 years, they've had a great series, expanded all over the world, and a new champion this year. Jim, welcome. And this champion, Michael Essa, is kind of important for the series because he's a privateer who's managed to reach the top step of the podium.
Thanks, Bill. Good talking to you. Yeah, it was a significant year. I mean, not only are we concluding our 10th season, which is a small feat in itself, but we were able to crown a new champion, which is always good to stay diverse. Michael Essa in his BMW M3 won the championship. And, it's a good story because Michael came kind of from this structure, this ladder system that we've been trying to formulate and create over the past, really about the past 6 years. Figuring out how to get new and up-and-coming drivers into the sport, how to push them through the ranks. He came out of one of our, what we call our Pro-Am affiliates, similar to a SCCA regional division. He came through that. He got his license. He came and he drove in the series for 4 seasons. Slowly did better and better, and this happened to be his year. So he was technically the first to have gotten his license through our Pro-Am system, and thus elevating to win the championship.
Jim, we've talked so much. You're doing the interview for me. That was one of the ladder series, is one of the major things that you announced this week at SEMA. I thought that was a major step for Formula Drift.
It's a structure that we've been massaging and trying to figure out, again, for the past about 6 years. We've gone from everything from in the very beginning of the championship in the series, where it was kind of open game. Anybody that had a car that passed tech could come and drive. There wasn't a differentiation in terms of your skill level, in terms of your accomplishment. We formulated that throughout the years from one-time tryout type of system to now we have a pretty decent 8 affiliates across the United States, and we have a couple of international affiliates. The top drivers, the top ranking drivers in those series get a Formula Drift license, and then they come to the Pro Championship. And so we felt that because of that, there is almost a middle tier that needs to come in between what we call the Pro Championship and the Pro-Am ranks. And between that, we are introducing currently, unless we come up with a different name, currently what we're calling the Pro 2 series. And Pro 2, again, is like your Indy Lights is your nationwide series. You go from Pro-Am into Pro 2. You live in Pro 2 until you get your ranking up. And the top drivers in Pro 2 then become or get a Pro license.
And finally, this week, you announced a global expansion. Also, you and Ryan Sage, your partner, you guys could take over the world in Formula Drift. You announced some global expansion?
Yeah, I wouldn't say taking over the world, maybe taking over the drifting world. We've been doing a lot of one-off events over the last, 10 years. We've been doing demonstrations in Panama and at Champ Car and IndyCar events, and we've done exhibition matches in Abu Dhabi at the Yas Marina Formula One track, and to Doha, Qatar, and we've been to all these places. But the most significant is our partnership 6 years ago with a group of guys in Singapore, and we formed the Formula Drift Asia Championship. What that's laid out is the foundation for a Formula Drift World Championship, where you are competing and traveling from multiple events, earning points just like you would a regular Pro Championship. And hopefully by the end of the 2015 season, we will be able to crown the first Formula Drift World Champion. And so we're announcing it now, and we're not doing it in 14, but we're laying the groundwork, and we'll be slowly introducing the format of the World Championship Series, and in hopes that in 2015 we will be able to launch and operate a multiple event Formula Drift World Championship Series.
Jim Liaw, co-founder of Formula Drift. It's great to hear this news expansion. A lot of series are merging, contracting, getting smaller, going away. Formula Drift is expanding. Congratulations, Jim.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll be right back. The Racing Insiders, what's going on this weekend on the calendar? You'll love it. Be right back. On the racing calendar this weekend, the Global Rallycross. That's tonight in Las Vegas at the SEMA show, the final round in the American Championship Global Rallycross. A lot of bumping and banging there. The World Endurance Championship is in Shanghai. The two Audi teams, Car 1 and Car 2, are going to be going for the Drivers' Championship. Personally, I'd like to see Tom Christensen and Alan McNish and Loic Duval get the championship. And the SEMA show that's going on in Las Vegas, the largest auto-oriented show in the world. We'll get some information from the Pirelli World Challenge Championship. Jeff is going to be there. He's going to bring those conversations back for us, the Racing Insiders, next week. Jeff, what do you have going on this weekend?
Well, you already said it. I'm heading over to SEMA show. I'll be there and get a chance to go watch the Global Rallycross on Wednesday and Thursday. Can't wait for that. And then also stay tuned to that FIA World Endurance Championship race, man. I can't wait for that.
Greg, how about you?
Well, for my part, I'm going to be heading next weekend up to Charlotte to the new Fox Sports offices. That used to be Speed, of course, and do a little studio hosting for the finale of MotoGP coming from Valencia. And then I've been very fortunate, was asked again to come back to Circuit of the Americas the next weekend and do the public address commentary at the track for Formula One. So I'll be rushing down there and getting set for the season, well, not the season finale. The championship already decided, but we anticipate it being another great race at that great facility.
For me, I'm going to keep my eyes on the World Endurance Championship in Shanghai. I have a vested interest in the two-car on the Audi team with Tom Christensen and Alan McNish. I've talked to them several times, Loic Duval. I'd like to see them get that title. That's where my goals are. I'm not supposed to be cheering for one team over another, but sue me. This is the Racing Insiders. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles for Greg Kramer and Jeff Lepper. I want to invite you back next week. A great show standing by, waiting just for you. Until then, take care of each other and respect each other. I'm Bill Wood. Peace.